So we are back after a little time off. Very, very busy week it has been. The last week before Christmas. The last week before Christmas. And wow, what a week it has been. Not in football, but just in real life, because, outside of this and outside of football, people live lives and everyone's got their lives to live. So all good stuff, though. Everything's all good. We're good. I hope everybody at home, wherever you may be watching from, if you do watch this, of course, hope everything's good for you. And no, it's just around the corner, so of course we can say, Merry Christmas. We might as well start saying it. It's a couple days away. This year has absolutely flown by. This year has absolutely, completely and utterly flown by. And man, what a year! What a year! Various things to remember, various things to forget. But for Manchester United, the year is just not quite done. Not quite done. And we've got West Ham away tomorrow afternoon, 12:30 kickoff time. So first game of the weekend, and it's an interesting one. It's a very interesting one. We have got a challenge. We are posed a challenge. West Ham away. Adam Taylor, how we doing, man? Hope everything's good with you. Good to see you. Hope Christmas preparations are on course for a good Christmas and all of that good stuff. But West Ham away, interesting one. Interesting. I'm not going to lie, I was thinking about West Ham against Liverpool midweek, and I was hoping West Ham would put up a bit more of a fight, but to be quite frank, I think Liverpool sort of took out frustrations on West Ham. I mean, they've got Arsenal. I believe it's tomorrow. Yes, it is. 5:30 kickoff. Liverpool versus Arsenal. What a game that's going to be. Oh, what a game that's going to be. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a banging weekend for football. And then Christmas right at the very end of it. I'm going to be working tomorrow, so I'm going to miss most of it. But there will still be a match reaction the moment I get home. Or I'll try and make it the moment I get home. I might not be able to. I might have to do a little bit later. But that's okay. That's fine. We can cope with that. The question really is, can Man United cope with West Ham at the London Stadium? Because I'll tell you what, David Moyes, he's done some good stuff, some great stuff with this West Ham team. Got a good balance to it, a lot of key individuals, key players, great set piece specialists, very dangerous players from set pieces as well. And a few good technical players in the attacking areas of their pitch and some resolute defenders. They weren't very resolute, midweek against Liverpool. If you're holding 5 goals anywhere in the league, it's not necessarily been a great day at the office. So I'm expecting there to be a response. It's West Ham back at home. We've had the whole week in preparation for this game, so I'm expecting us to be up for it. I'm expecting us to be physically prepared for it, mentally prepared. I don't really know what to expect because, this is Manchester United Football Club in 2023 and going on 2024, where mentality is kind of an afterthought. It's kind of dead in the water, so we can't really predict what's going to be running through or channeling through the brains of Manchester United players when that first whistle, blows up to spark the kickoff. So we're gonna have to see and hope. We're hoping. How much can we hope that Manchester United actually turn up, because I've laid my pledge to never trust these players ever. So I'm never going to sit here and realistically expect them to really pull performances out when I know exactly what they can do going the opposite way. And the opposite way really, really is nothing, nothing to behold. Um, my Christmas present this year would be a win for us at West Ham. Hoyland getting his first goal would jingle my bells. Rasmus Hoyland, I mean, getting a first goal for Hoyland might jingle your bells. Listen, Rasmus Hoyland can score a hat trick and he'd jingle my balls. But, you know, is what it is. There's a lot of United fans that are probably hoping for some Christmas presents in the form of Manchester United actually doing good things. And watching this season, I think it's fair to say that we can't. It's like betting odds. People who want to put bets on Manchester United, we are probably really hated by the betting world right now, because everyone thinks, oh, well, United should do this, right? Nope. Nope. We're going to do the polar opposite and absolutely throw every accumulator known to man in the bin. It's just typical. It is absolutely typical Manchester United. But as for the preparations of the game, what do we expect from Ten Hag? What do we expect him to do going into this game? For me, I think with Ten Hag, you saw what worked well defensively against Liverpool. So there is a starting point. As for what the rest of that team does and how the rest of that team lines up, better quality and, wow, better quality. Literally, that's probably the core the core point of expectation going into this game. Better quality in the attack, so we don't have none of this situations where we get a counter attack or we look to break in transition and there's just absolutely nothing to scream or shout about in the final third, like we did against Liverpool. I mean, Hoyland had a very, very big chance, as some people have said, including Liverpool fans, that was the closest chance that either team came to scoring a goal, which says a lot. Says a lot. And we supposedly got absolutely ripped to pieces that game. But Hoyland, it's got to come soon, surely. Surely for Rasmus, it's got to come soon. That breakthrough goal that gets him on the score sheets, that get his account open for the Premier League. It's got to be soon. It has to be soon. And I think for one, it'll be a sweet thing. It'll be a sweet day to to revel in Hoyland celebrating that first Premier League goal for United. And at the top of it, the top of that list, the top of that priority list, is a clean win. A clean win that shows growth. And the one thing that I can't expect my team to do, that I wish we would do, is grow on those results that we get, because we can get a good start, good starting point. There's your base one. Now go to square one, and then you go to square two and square three and square four. Grow on that. And one thing we don't like to do is kick on. We don't like to kick on. We're straight back down on our asses the very next game. And I am hoping and praying that this is going to be a change of scenery, that we go to West Ham away and we actually get a good result, because in the run of games, or the difficult spell of games that we somewhat, for the bulk of it, we've gone through, when we have gone through the bulk of it, there's still some tough games. There is absolutely still some tough games we've got to get out of the way. And, every opportunity that we have, we should try and maximize every single time, because We don't know where our points are going to come from. We just can't. We just can't know. We just don't really know because you just don't know what United's going to show up. The one that miraculously pulls a result out of the bag, or the one that just typically falls away to defeat with a soft underbelly. And I think, as I've said about the Liverpool game, there's a good starting point there. Now grow on that and improve the areas that showed weakness. And our weakness was the midfield into attack. The defensive side of the game looked all right. It looked well set. It looked difficult to break down, very tough to play against. West Ham ain't a Liverpool. They're not going to start getting chance after chance after chance after chance. They're not going to be free-flowing creative football. They're not quite that team. They are very dangerous in set pieces, so we'd have to be professional. Not silly, not stupid, not doing madness on the pitch. I want us to not do any madness on the pitch because you invite some substantial amount of pressure if you give up cheap free kicks, cheap corner kicks, throw-ins, whatever, you name it. Any set pieces that we give away, we pose ourselves in danger. Real danger. Ten Hag must keep Mainu and Amrabat pairing, be brave and keep Bruno and Rashford on the bench. He won't, though. Well, it's an interesting one because I feel like with Scott McTominay in that Liverpool game, for some reason, match scores and match ratings, they really sort of bumped McTominay up to some really high scores. And for me, I didn't feel like that was the case at all. I thought he was quite invisible. And he had a position on the pitch, a role on the team that incites that you've got space to operate and do, or the key, the core outlet of creativity should come from you. And I didn't see that. And to be honest, where we say Scott McTominay, play him because he can get lots of goals, think about how the ball gets to the positions where Scott scores those goals. So he's a runner from deep, right? The ball doesn't usually go directly through him. He's not usually the final piece in the puzzle to scoring a goal. He's not usually there. He's usually the guy that puts the cherry on the icing on the cake, or he's someone that just occupies space on the pitch and he gets bypassed in the transition. From what I've seen, I want somebody who's going to be better with the ball control at the feet. I think with Bruno Fernandes, he's probably going to most likely go straight back into the team. The thing that annoys me is not so much that I think I was going to say that the thing that annoys me is that Scott will play, but he will play. Scott, I'm sure, will play. Either Mainu or Amrabat will most likely drop to the bench. Bruno will most likely come back in the team as he is the allocated captain. He is the captain for Manchester United, and Ten Hag's going to stick with, selecting a player that is his captain. I know he didn't do it last season with Harry Maguire, but at the same time, Harry Maguire really, really wasn't, doing himself any favours. For me, Bruno Fernandes is the selected, the hand-picked captain, and by Eric. So I think Eric's going to be someone who will stick by him, and will resort to starting him again. So I think we'll see a return to the first team for Bruno. I would like to see Garnacho stay in this team, in this setup. I'd like to see. I think Anthony. I know Dalot's not going to be able to play because of bloody Michael Oliver, toss pot, sack him, and all that good stuff. But Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I mean, who should be playing on the right hand side? Because I think we're going to get Luke Shaw starting down the left back position. We'll probably have Wan-Bissaka starting down the right. I think Wan-Bissaka Antony doesn't really work too well. Dalot Antony partnership does do better on the right hand side. So I think he will probably start Antony with Wan-Bissaka, but it's not going to be a clean fixture. It's not going to be a very clean fixture on the right hand side, which is a shame because, Antony, he does a lot of work that sort of goes underneath the radar a bit because, Antony's not scoring goals, he's not setting up goals. He's just doing a lot of, you know, the sort of good soldier work type jobs that are really sort of like players that are perhaps you call them unsung heroes of teams, right? And it's important to have some good work rate in the team in any game, in any case, whoever the opponent is. Work rate in a team can be priceless at times. A little bit of quality would be nice with that though. So Antony, I'm hoping that you've got a little bit of something in the locker to actually have impact in the game, contributing to goals. That would be great. But we're going to have to see what happens on the day because, as I've said already multiple times, nobody knows what United is going to turn up. But as for the midfield pairing of Mino and Amrabat, I would love to see that again. I'd probably say Bruno should start ahead of them. But it's not. I don't think it's going to be that. I think Scott's going to play, but he's probably going to start next to Amrabat. And Mino then drops to the bench. I mean, it should. To be honest, the fact is that it's an easier game than going away to Anfield, where Mino and Amrabat, and Mino did a fantastic job. If Mino can walk into Anfield and have a really clean, composed performance whilst playing for most of the game on a yellow card at Anfield. He's got a very calm, collected head on his shoulders. That kid should be starting again, and should be starting again, and again, and again, and again, because that's, it's a calm, composed presence in midfield. It's if you get pressure, he's not going to break. He looks like he's sensible to know what the protocol is when the pressure comes. So I would like to see that pairing, but we know that's not going to happen, sadly. Wolfgang Division, good to see you, man. Big up, Fuzzy. Big ups to you, man. And big ups to Adam as well, 100%. Hope everything's good with you, Wolf. And big ups to Big T as well. Good to see you, man. Hope everything's good with you. Hope everyone's Christmas preparations are going well also, because we are just around the corner. Just around the corner. So, as far as the team goes, as to what I probably would expect, I've got the travelling squad supposedly that is going to West Ham away. This one's interesting. There is a name that returns to the team. So this is a confirmed travelling squad. So Onana, Bayindir, Wan-Bissaka, Reguilon, Evans, Amrabat, Eriksen. Eriksen's back in the team. McTominay, Van der Beek, Pellistri, Garnacho, Antony, Rashford, Højlund. So that's a confirmed travelling squad. These players were not spotted, but could still be a part of the squad tomorrow. Feature as Tom Heaton, Rafael Varane, Luke Shaw, Bruno Fernandes, Kobbie Mainoo, Amad Diallo, and Anthony Martial. So there's probably a few names that have not been spotted, but will probably be involved in the squads. So it's going to be an interesting one. Eriksen coming back into fitness. Does Eriksen get back in this team? Does he get back in this team? I don't think even if he is on the bench, I don't think that Ericsson will see a start for Manchester United for just a little while, just sort of getting him up to speed and into fitness again. I think just making sure that we manage his minutes well, just to make sure we don't get any silly injuries, and that's the last thing we want. Um, nothing too silly. Old school Gunner, big ups to you, man. Hope you are doing well. Smash the likes, everyone, and subscribe if you're new to the channel. 100%. I've lost 2 subscribers. I don't know what's happened. I've lost 2 subscribers. I shall find these people, and I shall send Liam Neeson to go do my dirty work for me. All that good stuff. Any plans for the channel in 2024? We're just going to keep up the good content. No major plans, to be honest. No major plans. It's a little bit more of the same. I think it's easy for me to say that, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do all of these great things for this channel. I'm sort of not someone who just lays out a vision, like a long-term vision for the channel. I just take every day as it comes and just go with the flow. Literally, that is it at the moment, just going with the flow. Unless I know exactly what, if this has structure, and this is the thing, my channel, what it doesn't have is structure. It doesn't have structure, as most of what else goes on in my life doesn't have structure either. So it's very hard to put something in place, then something else comes up and starts overlapping, but I have to prioritize that instead of this. And then it gets a bit jumbled up and a bit difficult. So it's kind of like it's free flowing, just whatever feels right at the time, I'll go for it. And ideally a bit more consistency, just better consistency. I might do some like weekly video releases, or several days per week that I do a video release for, as like a extra content or something. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens, to be honest, in terms of timing. Cheers, guys. Cheers. The milk is back out. The milk is absolutely back out. Massive game for Man United and the Gunners tomorrow. Absolutely. Big games. I'd play Ericsson instead of Amrabat. Interesting. I wonder, hypothetical here. You say I had Mainu and Amrabat in the defensive midfield, but you had Ericsson in front of them as a more creative role. Would people choose that? Would people go with that? Just a hypothetical, bit of a question out there to the chat. Would you put Ericsson? Would you try that out? Because I know we tried McTominay in there, and the guy just ghosted another game. Wondering if Ericsson, with a bit more of a final ball outlet type player, as opposed to being more of a ball carrier or having to travel more, would be a more ideal role in the team. Get more United fans involved in 2024. Absolutely. That's a good point. And that's something that I've done nowhere near enough of, is get Manchester United fans and start building Manchester Unitedness in this channel, because there's only really me and some viewers, and that's it. Like there's not much else representation Manchester United wise. So that is another good point there. Get more Manchester United fans involved. You have some good panelists from other clubs, but they should be a minority on the channel. They are a majority. Man, I'll tell you what, that is that there, yeah, that's a target. That's very much a realistic target. Get more Manchester United fans involved. There's a few people I would like to reach out to and see if we can get some sort of cooperation. Would be good. But we'll have to see what they would think about things, because I know there's a lot of United content creators that keep themselves very busy. Um, I would like to do something with Stefan from the United Philosophy, but I think outside of his streams, he's quite busy with things in everyday life. I know he's quite busy with work as well, so I'd have to see what Stefan would think about things like that. I would be down for Ericsson instead of Bruno. It's an interesting concept to try out because Ericsson, a lot of people, sort of know him to be more like a player that plays further, more advanced in midfield positions. So the question really would be if that was a strong suit to his game, perhaps that's a point of exploitation. We use that to our advantage. We say, how good is your out ball? How good is your final ball? How good is your delivery? Plus, Christian Eriksen being another option from set pieces gives us some more alternatives. Bruno Fernandes, for me, is not hitting the mark with anything set piece wise. So, I mean, we've got Luke Shaw on corner kicks from the left hand side, sometimes from the right. But for me, Eriksen, a set piece taker as well, gives more alternatives. And I think it would be worth experimenting with. I mean, the league's kind of dead right now, so why not experiment with it? We're not going to win the league, of course. So, I mean, most of the league probably don't think we're going to finish anywhere near top four. So, I mean, we'd have to. I think it's worth experimenting with. Eriksen has a better passing variety than Bruno. He does. Bruno only has 40-yard passes in the locker. Yeah, I mean Hollywood Bruno. Um, I think Eriksen has got a good bit of ball control. It's a bit like Juan Mata, I find a bit like Juan Mata. Very neat, tidy ball control. Had absolutely no pace to him whatsoever. And somewhat of a set piece taker. So Eriksen could be like a Juan Mata for us. Thinking about it as to what types of players they are or what each player's individual strong suits are, quite a few similarities there. So it's worth looking into. I would say it's very much worth looking into. I don't think it's going to happen for West Ham by any means, but it's we should keep our options open, keep an open mind. It's worth experimenting. It's worth looking into. As for what we should expect as far as scoreline goes, I mean, I've titled the video or the stream "Higher Expectations" because we walked into Liverpool expecting batterings, pummelings, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've seen 5,000s, tons and tons and tons, an absolute pummeling. Higher expectations. It's West Ham away. Are we expecting to go to London Stadium and get a result? Like every game, every single game, the opportunity is there. So if the opportunity is there, then it's fair game. Go and get the 3 points. That's what we need to do. We've got to do that. Onana trains with the midfielders. Let's put Bandier in goal and Onana in the six with Eriksen and Miner in front of him. Also try Anthony as a right back. Do you know what? That's actually kind of funny. Is Anthony's got some good defensive work rate for a right winger. He's got nothing to offer in attack. What if we were to say Anthony's actually a fairly decent right wing back or something? Like seriously, it like just as a thought, like I think everyone's thinking, well, I mean, what Anthony at right back? I mean, that would just be a disaster waiting to happen. But I mean, physically, he's not anything to write home about. I think he gets bullied quite easily. But I'd say he's a bit like a weak version of Diogo Dalot that tries to do silly step overs and stuff and meaningless skills that kind of gets him nowhere. he hasn't got much in the way of output or quality in front of goal. But in terms of his work rate, his positioning or where he turns up when the play is against us down the right hand side is actually really good. And the fact is that Diogo Dalot, as a guy that's not very good defensively at right back, when he plays with Antony in front of him, Antony helps out. Antony does help him out down the right hand side. So maybe that is another alternative for the right back position. Plus, we know that, yeah, I say we know that, but in terms of attacking outlet, he's not great at shooting for goal, but he's so one-footed, so one-footed, and as a right back, when you can commit to an attacking position, you'd almost say that Antony's going to have to be very much more centrally when he does attack or when he does go to contribute further up the pitch, because it's not like he's got a right foot on him to cross to provide other alternative options in attack. He doesn't have a right foot. He only has a left foot. So I mean, that's I think one thing that we'll probably have to look at to see if there is a way to getting around that. Um, I genuinely think Antony is the best right back at our club. Well, we'd have to play him there to truly know how he does measure up against a Wan-Bissaka and a Diogo Dalot. But it's going to be interesting. It's a very, very intriguing idea. Some intriguing ideas, some intriguing out there choices. And it would require some experimentation to really see just how flexible some of these players actually are, and as to whether there are better positions in this team for them where we see better performances, because sometimes players like that, they do undergo a positional change and get better. They just get better as players. If Antony played on the left and Garnacho played on the right, with the instructions to keep running the wings and crossing to the box, do you think Højlund would score more? I think it's an interesting thing to keep in mind, because Garnacho, what I like about Garnacho is that he does go, he does all sorts. Like, he can go deep to the byline, but he can also come quite, he can also pull up early. Antony, I feel like when he plays on the right hand side, because he wants to use his left foot in attacking scenarios by going more centrally, he doesn't really always take it to the byline. He has got a right foot that we never see it, but I've seen him almost assist or set up some really good goals with his right foot by taking it to the byline. So to me, Antony can do it, but do you just encourage him using a stronger foot to actually put the ball into dangerous areas to create more threat for someone like Erasmus Højlund to get on the end of? I think there are conversations to be had about which side wingers play on. I know Rashford sometimes gets played on the right just to compensate for Garnacho playing on the left. I mean, Garnacho, even though Garnacho's right-footed, the thing I like about Garnacho is he's not really, say, afraid to use his left foot, or he doesn't avoid it, doesn't actively try to avoid it. He knows when when he wants to use his right foot, because he shows intent to wanting to hit the ball, to shoot for goal. But he's open to doing all sorts and setting things up with the left foot. And I suppose with Garnacho, if you put him onto the right, it encourages him. Your creative foot is now your right. How good is your goal threat from your left? And that's the thing. If Antony and Garnacho both sacrifice a goal threat by taking their sort of shooting foot away from where they'd be shooting from, where they're usually used to shooting from, and stick them on opposites and say, you're not going to be involved with you. I say that, but in reality, if we think about it, if you look at other wingers, they don't sit there and try to cut inside and shoot from miles and miles out every single time. Unless your name's Salah and Diaz, of course. But wingers, when they get involved in being like having goal threat, they're usually marking to the back post. They're usually making the blind runs, the diagonal runs from wide into more inverted positions. And usually they're not far away from the goal when they do shoot, when they do hit the ball. Plus, if you can get narrow and close enough to the goal, your strong foots that you usually play for, that you probably want to play for a cross, you're close enough to shoot to the far post or pile drive it high and above the goalkeeper and into the roof of the net. So there's alternative ways for players like Antony or Garnacho to get goals if they are to play on the opposite wings. But the way that our wingers have been playing this season doesn't feel like I've got much hope or confidence in them actually resorting to playing more like that, in being more direct with trying to get goals and take the ball much closer towards the goal before letting a shot fly. I think it's an interesting thing for me because guys like Antony being one-footed players, Garnacho, I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say he's completely one-footed. I think there's options there. Rashford, I think, probably does more of what, well, especially last season, probably scoring his goals much more from where perhaps a guy like Antony should be or Garnacho should be, getting into those good positions for shots. And I think Garnacho has done it better. He's gotten into goal scoring positions better on average than Antony has. So Antony, do what Garnacho does. Do what Garnacho does. And I think Antony, because he doesn't give himself a clear enough opportunity to actually shoot to find the back of the net. If he makes the chances easier for himself and gets into better positions, I think this guy could get on the score sheet quite a few times and quite easily. So there's an opportunity there for Antony, but he's got to work on where he's putting himself in those attacking positions. Would Antony in attacking midfield position get more shots off? I mean, as long as it's not, I mean, it probably would, but I'd want those shots to be sensible. And that's the thing. Do you trust those players to shoot in appropriate positions? Because if you're just getting a half sight at goal and deciding, you know what, bang, just shoot it over the bar, wide of the mark, out for a throw in, or just rolls into the goalkeeper's hands, there's a lot that has to go right for a player that goes for a Hollywood goal. We talk about Bruno doing Hollywood passes all the time. Players like our wingers don't make silly decisions with shooting. They already do it from the wings, from attacking positions, from attacking midfield positions. There's a little bit more work that they've got to do and a bit more footballing intelligence that they've got to have. And I think with Antony, there's a lot that he would have to do to really mold into that position. I feel there's still a lot of work that he's got to personal work on the training pitch that he's got to undergo to really sort of fit that mold, and especially to get by in the Premier League as well. But never say never with that. Never say never. As for score lines, I'll probably say Manchester United, we never do things simply. We never ever do. But I'm going to go with a 2-1 to United. 2-1 to a Manchester United, I think we've not got enough of a discipline on the pitch to not give away cheap free kicks in dangerous positions. So I think that's where a goal's going to come from. A goal for West Ham is going to come from those positions. For me, our goals, how we score our goals, I think we can do so from transition. I think there's an opportunity to score from transition, but we've got to make those moments count. I think if you've got Bruno in the team, there is an opportunity on those transitions for the final ball to be a good ball into the likes of your Højlund, or Garnacho, or Antony, whoever gets into those positions. I think there's a possibility that we can get a couple goals, and that's the thing. I think Højlund is probably going to be um, a likely candidate to be on the score sheet, but we've got to find a way in actually playing into getting him onto into the right positions, making the right movements, but getting the right delivery to him as well. Do you think McTominay has the footballing intelligence? He seems to have a knack of turning up in the box when he's not supposed to be there. I think what McTominay does, and I think we've discussed it previously on other shows, is that where the striker occupies a lot of the attention from defending players, McTominay is always, as a ball carrying midfielder in that team, or one of the two players that plays deep in midfield, he's always going to be in the back of players' minds. And as in terms of back of players' minds, he's not what they're thinking about. Of course, everyone thinks, oh, well, he's a goal threat, but no one's actively going to constantly be marking him. So for McTominay, it's sort of that's your incentive, that you're always going to get that opportunity, because if there's people that everyone's getting marked in front of you, who's marking you if you're not near the danger areas? So if you go into danger areas, right, from more obscure positions, people aren't really going to follow you. People aren't going to be, honed in on you. So I think for McTominay, there's a lot of chances that where if the space is occupied and they've drawn players or man markers away from McTominay where he would play, or the spaces that he can occupy, that makes McTominay's game 100 times easier. And it's quite simply just that. As far as footballing intelligence goes, for me, he's got the mind to be in positions in that box where the space opens up, where he can escape the marking, or the man marking, zonal marking, whatever it may be. He's got enough of intelligence to know where to be in the box and in areas around there. But for me, in doing other important jobs on the pitch, I feel like he perhaps lacks a little bit in, having the expertise to know mentally what he's doing in other positions, like the attacking midfield position. You see, for such an important position, there's a lot that I feel like Scott doesn't quite have switched on for an attacking midfielder role, because there's a lot of work that someone has to go and do, which we don't usually know Scott for. We don't usually know him for doing things like that. So as far as Scott goes, he might have the knowledge and know-how in the box to being the extra man, but I think for versus other options in the team for where we, supposedly play him, I think there's better options for me. I think there are better options, but yeah, we need the best. We need the very best of the best that we can possibly get on that pitch. But anyways, Leave your thoughts and feelings about tomorrow's game, your score predictions or your predicted lineups, whatever it may be. Get those down in the comment section and in the chat. A few things we can move on to. As stated in the stream description. What the hell? The hell is going on at Manchester United and in football? Because one topic I haven't covered thus far yet is the ESL. That is a conversation. That is a big conversation. McTominay false 9. I mean, I think the interesting thing is that with a false 9, Scott McTominay, if the idea of the extra midfielder becomes a theme, if Scott McTominay plays in the false 9 and he's in the box and is all getting stuck in, doing what, say, guys like Rasmus Højlund does and other players like that, would he lose his goal-scoring edge if he is creating space for other players? Such as if it was Eriksen playing in that role, where Scott usually plays, would it be Eriksen coming into other areas in the box to get a shot away? Would he be the player that gets left unmarked? And I think that's sort of the question that will probably be that we'd probably have to ask if McTominay gets put into a focal point on the front line. Does he immediately become the player that gets marked out of the game? Now, McTominay might have good physicality to be a good ball holder. I think the know-how of linking up with teammates, knowing the movement that he's got to make into channels, off the ball, finding a good balance, to giving the striker position more depth. There's a lot that needs to be looked into. Whether Scott can do it, for me, we haven't played him there anywhere near enough to have a full case study or enough of a case study to build a realistic viewpoint to what Scott's actually capable of in attacking positions. I know that Liverpool was probably a one-off. We've played him in the number 10 position already before that, which was against Newcastle, where we lost 2-0 and we had Wout Weghorst in front of him. I think they were sort of interchanging a little bit. I think Scott was sometimes up front, then he sort of dropped back to the 10. And that, funnily enough, actually came off the back of Scott McTominay having a really good international break. A really good international break. So we were like, oh, well, I guess he could be our striker. So he played him in that sort of number 10 position behind Wout Weghorst. And yeah, it didn't go too well. Didn't go too well. So, yeah. He attacks well for Scotland. Probably the same idea as the extra man in the box. And I suppose with the thing with international football, the one thing that Scotland have are not quite the same type of team. Well, he hasn't got the same type of teammates that he has for Scotland as to what he has for United. I think two different systems, two different approaches, two different ideas in mind, different individual instructions. One manager's probably telling him that's the way you're going to play for this game. The other manager says you're going to do this instead. So perhaps there is a strong suit from a midfield position that some managers say, well, yes, Scott, you do a good job from there. For me, I think as far as he can do really well for Scotland. But the thing is that no matter what, some games he gets good goal scoring opportunities, or he has, good goals tally, and it's most notably for this season that he has that. Um, as far as getting him, or like getting more out of him, to be honest, whether people would think he's a late bloomer type of player, to be honest, I don't think he has got that level of improvement in him. He's got the ability to go on a purple patch, because every player has that. Maybe that's what Marcus Rashford had for the whole season. Just one big purple patch that spanned across a season, and then dipped coming into this season. So, yeah, with Scott, does well for his international team, but he's got a, and I don't know if it's performances, because we notice him when he scores a lot of goals, and we say that's fantastic. Like, brilliant, unbelievable that a midfielder is getting a lot of goals like this. I, for one, would want to see just how much is he doing in every other element of that team. Because as much as we say he's a fantastic goal scorer, a striker, what else has he got? So he can tick one big box, but there's probably another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes that got to be ticked as well to find, le perfect striker. So it's so for me, it's as much as we want to experiment with Scott McTominay up top, we'd have to hold sort of a checklist. We'll hold him to a checklist. How much of the striker's role does he cover when he is playing in that position? That's on the basis that if he plays there, if a manager starts him there. And I don't think there really is many, if any, managers in world football that would say, yes, Scott, you're going to be our striker. Rashford had Weghorst making runs and creating the space for Rashford to score. Mm-hmm. A hold-up play and a simple sort of switcheroo. So Weghorst holds the ball. Rashford either plays it into him, takes the run, or he goes more central, and Weghorst just comes to closer range of layoffs. I know Marcus Rashford usually like to beat a man and open his body for the shot at the end of a sector of dribbling. But yeah, for some reason, Rashford just not offering the same thing this season for me. Not the same kind of runs that he usually would make. Not the same level of execution. Yeah, there's for me, Rashford. I mean, my patience for Marcus personally has run out. I don't know how. I don't know about everybody else. Yeah, for me, my patience has run out. Manchester United. What are we doing? Would you agree we miss Fred? Absolutely. Absolutely. To be honest, Fred is one of the players out of the options, the 3 options that were popped up to be sold. Fred was actually one of the players that I said, you know what? He's one of the players that I would least sell versus the other options. But yeah, definitely, man. We definitely misread. Manchester United, in other news, Manchester United receive a 1 out of 5 rating on their food hygiene after, as they've called it, an isolated incident of being served raw chicken. Uh, it's a madness. It's a madness. We can't stay out of trouble, people. We just can't. If it's not one thing, it's another. So, the newest signing for Manchester United's squad is salmonella, right? Chicken poisoning is coming to score hat tricks, and it's absolutely scored a hat trick at Old Trafford. And here's the thing, right? I think this came off the back of an actual like VIP experience thing. I'm pretty sure, because I think most of which I don't know about what food gets served at like the bars inside Old Trafford. I don't know if it is chicken products that get sold there. I think it must have been one of those sort of matchboxes, um, those matchbox experiences, and probably got served something that was just completely raw. If that is the case, I mean, Christ Almighty, you get paid. You pay a lot of money, right, for a match day experience in a VIP box, right, and then you get served raw food. Just put some sauce on the chicken; it will be fine. It's probably the only saving grace. They've probably merchandised that, to be fair. Big T. If we really let just Americanization take over the club, they would literally put like what is it? Jim Ross's barbecue sauce, JR barbecue sauce. They'd Americanize it so it's got Scotty McSauce, Scotty McSaucy side dip for your fries, your French fries, and raw chicken. Enjoy the chewiness, the texture of rubbery chicken bouncing back, like uh, like Gordon Ramsay would say. It's like It's like Tiger Woods teeing off of it, just rubber, 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 rubber. If I see McTominay on a McDonald's advert, I will die. You already see Declan Rice posing for rice protein. Ah, boy, oh boy, oh boy. He's already doing jigs. He's already doing jigs. Must have learnt his dance routines from AFTV after that Thomas Partey video. My bloody god. But I mean, we already see McTominay being advertised. I mean, the guy's on Cadbury's Milky Bar chocolates anyway, so he's already been used for advertisements. Don't need more McTominay advertisements. Surely not. He's already on the chocolate bars. But McTominay rapping on a Just Eat advert. Oh, if he's in the passenger seat to a pimped out Snoop Dogg open top vehicle with the bouncing suspension, he's just sat in the back seat, just chilling there. I just couldn't. I just couldn't. I just wouldn't. But man, it's clapped. Absolutely clapped settings right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, with this whole news with their 1 out of 5 food hygiene rating. So yeah, it was. If I find their comments, we'll read out their comments. It'll be quite funny. Quite the funny. They did. Man United did give a response to this as well. So yeah, they've been slapped. In words of Mike Keegan, MUFC have been slapped, backhanded with a 1 out of 5 food hygiene rating after guests at corporate event. Corporate event, so it is a VIP box basically. Given raw chicken, they will appeal. Oh God. Oh man. MUFC statement in response. It's a 1-star food hygiene rating. This was an isolated incident. Much like every other thing that's gone wrong at Manchester United off the pitch. And the point of failure was identified and addressed. Everyone at the club is determined to regain our 5-star food hygiene status as quickly as possible. To support that objective, we are conducting an independent food audit to identify any further opportunities for improvement. I love it. I absolutely love it. Oh. I like how everybody's just. I see a lot of people commenting on this. It's like, oh, good, this is great. Fantastic news. Somebody in the middle is just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? But yeah. So yeah, that was a thing. Are you doing a Crimbo evening stream matched up with Chatting Madness? That's an interesting one. That is an interesting one. I think I don't know if anybody would be around on, say, Christmas Eve. Maybe on Saturday night, I'll do the match reaction. I'll do it as like a video or a stream or something earlier in the evening, but then do a later night, sort of Christmas general chat, which I can get a lot of people on for. I could do that. I think Jez's Christmas party stream thing happened earlier today. I think that was at 7:30. 7:30. I'm pretty sure it was. I'll need to double check. On the 22nd, yeah, Friday 22nd. I was going to go to that, but other things had to happen, sadly. But yeah, I'd like to do something like that. Crimbo evening stream, big glass of Baileys. There is that. I'm not usually one to like drinking alcoholic stuff or shots or anything like that. And usually I'm not big on Baileys, but there was one Baileys that I had some of, and I thought the flavour was really nice. I thought it was really, really nice. It was quite strong, but it was a very reasonable taste to it. And you know what? To beat that sort of strong, liquorish taste that I usually dislike or don't enjoy, to be honest, I actually enjoyed that. So I'll have to see if there's more of it. Can't remember what it was exactly. Don't know if it was like a chocolate one or a chocolate Baileys thing or some toffee thing. I'll have to see what it is. That's the Super League not happening. We won't meet the EU chicken standards. Brexit. They'll be like, well, screw you and your Brexit chicken. EU chicken's fine. And that's probably what it is. It's probably Brexit chicken that the guests at the corporate event were given. Proper Brexit chicken, cooked, dished, and served by yours truly, Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Who knows? It probably was. Maybe Sir Jim Ratcliffe just despised one of the chefs at Manchester United so much they decided, you know what, I'm going to cook up something, an absolute atrocity that would pass quite closely as a war crime, serve it to a guest at a corporate event, and then bam, stick it on the chef. And then just like that, sack that chef. Because screw that chef. They do a light Baileys, add some chocolate milk to the Baileys. You might be speaking my language, you know. You might be speaking my language. I might have to do some, a couple of drops of some Baileys. I might have to do that. I'll have to see what it is. I'll grab myself a little bottle of it and just add a little bit. Maybe I don't need vodka. I don't need vodka or straight spirits or anything. Just a bit of Baileys. It would actually be themed. It'll be a good fit. So it's an idea. That's a genuine idea. We might have to explore that. ESL. Let's talk about the ESL. Man, there's a lot of people that there's actually a bit of a split with this. There's a lot of people that say brilliant, fantastic. There's a lot of other people that say this is absolutely shambolic and woeful. For me, I'm against the idea, not that we could have a fresh idea for a competition. I'm not so much against that. I think we should be open minded to change in football. We should always welcome an opportunity to when someone can propose a change and modernize football where it needs to be modernized. There's one glaring issue about the ESL that it really does rile me up, and I just really feel like people need to be very wary and careful about how they acknowledge this. If people out there may say UEFA and FIFA are corrupt, are they corrupt? Most probably likely, because there's a lot of money. But for a competition that promises better payment and a better payment structure to what UEFA offers for their Champions League competition, I believe in the phrase that corruption will always follow the money and the power. So when you get a competition like this, everybody that would be open to committing acts of corruption or corrupted acts, corrupted business, corrupted monetary exchanges, what perfect opportunity than to get into bed with this competition. There might be a lot of hush money payments, because that's just the rules. That's just the rules of big money. There's going to be corruption. There's got to be corruption. I mean, corruption follows money, and where there's lots of money, you can always do a bit of digging. You might find corruption. You'll most likely find corruption. But the one thing that I really it does not sit right to any degree. I do not like it having a competition. If I'm a competitor and I've got my team playing in this competition, my opponents have a good team. But at the same time, my opponents own or run the league, the competition itself. They run it. They are sat on the board of the competition, whilst their beloved team, their baby, is on the pitch playing for the highest honours in their own competition. I would not be comfortable with that. because we want, you know, I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. I don't know how comfortable anybody else would be with that, with a concept that, you know, you've got people who own other, you know, your rival clubs to that competition, who own the league at the same time. To me, that just doesn't sit right. I think it is inevitable. Money always beats prestige. Well, money seeping into the game has definitely taken football off course and has, say, spoilt the brothel a bit. Um, I think football before, like crazy money, was definitely better. Definitely way better. Football is not as good as, you know, it's not as good now as it was 10, 20 years ago. It wasn't. It just wasn't. I mean, I say 10 years ago. That's probably when it really started going off the rails. So for me, you know, UEFA I corrupt organisations is a challenge to them refreshing. It's an invitation. They certainly have a monopoly. It's an invitation. And you know what? It's definitely got UEFA, FIFA, and all of these other governing bodies on their toes. It's woken them up. It's got them thinking, well, Jesus, these guys are persistent, and they are essentially, it's almost become a war of football. I mean, it's kind of like you look at the situation. The worst thing about it, right, is from football fans' perspectives, we can't look at it as a good versus evil. It's what's the lesser of the two evils because they're both evil. UEFA are UEFA are an evil organisation, but this incoming ESL, that corporation, that's evil as well. So it's kind of like as a fan, we're given the conundrum. You either choose one evil or the other. And that's the decision that a lot of fans probably, as people who want to be proud supporters of their football clubs, they're faced with that dilemma, and that's just not fair. That's just not fair to fans. I don't believe that's fair for fans to have to sit there and watch and sort of plead between having an organisation that has not been clean for a very long time versus another organisation that's promising to rip up everything about the alternative competition, become the stable hold it like the stable power in that regards, and watch the sport undergo dramatic change for which it may never be the same again. And I'm more in the camp of sticking to a legacy decision, to what we've known for the longest, but changing that. I think with a governing body, it's like UEFA. If it was up to me, I would gut the whole thing and start again with UEFA. But I do not want to see a president of a football club essentially create a competition that demolishes UEFA Champions League, a competition already, by the way, that throughout history has been dominated by Real Madrid. So I don't know what Florentino Perez is upset about with his idea in mind. I mean, if you're other fans from other clubs, maybe you're just upset with UEFA in general, and maybe you're rooting for change. That's okay. But Florentino Perez, I mean, his club has dominated Champions League for a long time, for a long time. It's been the case since almost the inception of the competition itself. It's almost been just that way consistently. He's looking to basically create a competition, super competition, very high monetary rewards, but lesser stakes. Lesser stakes. The initial idea was a closed shop, which was never going to work. This time around, it's like we're going to make it an open shop, but the idea as to how the money moves here, we tell people, and this is always, it is, you might as well say it's rule 101 for creating something. If you need to get people on board, tell them what they want to hear, but not what you know is true, or what you know is not true. So the thing is that people, when they read into what, it's like when people were giving the statement saying that the UEFA and FIFA had unruly responses to the initial proposals, and people were celebrating from um, the other group of individuals, or law firms, or whoever it was, came out saying, yes, we've won, football will now be free. And I'm thinking, I'm sorry, you're pledging freedom of football whilst proposing the biggest monetary business in football competition history ever. Do you know what free football is? Is football without billions upon billions upon billions. Free football is football in its most natural, purest form. That's what free football is. So you saying you're going to free football with this new big competition, what a crock of shit. I've read straight through those lies. We know that's not what you are going to give us. We know it. I know it. You are not freeing football. You are not saving football with this competition. You are taking out the competition and the organisation you don't like, get them off the map, out of business you go. We are not the alternative anymore. We are the only option for you. So you can either love us or hate us. Who cares? We've all you got. So, and that to me is probably the power struggle that's going to be. That's probably what's going to happen in this case, and whether fans can do anything to stop it from happening eventually, I think is yet to be seen. We'd have to have a unification like we've never seen before. I mean, even today, we've had a politician come out talking about, oh, yeah, if I was in charge of, or Prime Minister, there would be no ESL. Like, football fans in football have to come first. I'm like, Keir Starmer, like, what are you talking about? You're a politician. It's like politicians who come and talk about football. Oh, it's like, yeah, it's got to be for the fans. It's got to be for the supporters. You know, we're loyal to the supporters of the sport. There'll be no ESL. And I'm thinking, why are you sticking your nose in that business? You're a politician. You probably do next to nothing anyway. That's the reality of the situation. Smash the likes for the Fuzzy Man. Absolutely. Speaking of fuzzy, I've got my whiskers back now. I've got my whiskers back. I've got to get them shaved off. But yes, please do smash up the likes, people. That'll be most appreciated. Up to 5 likes, which is halfway there to 10. If we can get it up to 10 between now and the end of the stream, and also on playback, that would be fan-bloody-tastic. If there was 2 different squads, it could work maybe. Well, that's the problem, is if it becomes a globalization, the ESL becomes globalized. If you've got games being played in other continents, you essentially, what I believe or perceive as, you have to make your squad sizes like NFL rosters. Just tons and tons and tons of players, and the imbalances that would come as a result of that. I mean, you already get big football clubs, right? Big roster sizes, big squad sizes. I mean, look at Chelsea as a prime example. Even then, even with everybody fit and available for Chelsea, you still wouldn't be able to completely split straight down the middle with first team playing out in other continents, and then a midweek or for the midweek game, and then for the weekend game, having the other half of first team playing at playing in the Premier League or domestic leagues. It would be very difficult, but I think as far as the long term plans, I think with FFP that's currently governed by UEFA, FFP may be scrapped as a with the induction of the ESL, because it would be a competition that seeks to completely put UEFA out of power. So financial fair play would probably just disappear, and then it is the wild, wild west. And then you really would see some people going quite crazy and all out with how they go about spending things, which FFP stops a lot of extremities occurring in football. People are upset with it, saying that it's disabling owners from, spending what they want to spend on their team to be successful. Now that's understandable, of course it is. But as far as, say, fairness for competition, is that there's the ways in which FFP are imposed sort of stop other clubs getting bright ideas and going overkill. And with overkill, I think it's almost as an act of protecting that club from going bust, like, say, with a Leeds United or a Portsmouth, or clubs that have gone through all sorts. But yeah, the for me, FFP, there's goods and bads to it. I think there is a split for me, a split between the positives and the negatives of FFP. I think FFP is frustrating because it does sort of disable a club from showing its ambition, or being able to go into doing what it wants to do, to maximizing its impact in sort of signing players, tuning the squad, and doing all bits and pieces like that based off of your revenue incomes and your revenue streams. The more you maximize that, the more allowance you get to spend on your FFP. At the same time, I'm sort of half glad that it's there so that people who are already ahead of the game don't just go completely outside. And I think as long as there is something that keeps this gap between the best and the worst teams in Division 1, it would almost make Division 1 football a closed shop, because no one else has the slightest hope in hell of ever, because you'd have to get more money than the opposition. This is basically, the better run club you are, the more likely you can build the bricks to get yourself up to a high FFP allowance club. And some people like the idea of that indirect approach to turning a small club into a big club. Other people don't. Other people prefer it if it was just mainlining it. And it comes from responsible ownership. And you know what? I can't disagree with that either. I think responsible ownership does need to be a fee included in football. So henceforth, an independent regulator saying, well, look, you might be wanting to own a football club, but can we trust you to actually protect that football club as an asset, as a national asset to a, to a club that it's got a governing body that that club serves under. We'd have to look into what sort of changes can be made or would be made. As I've said, I think ESL would scrap FFP that's imposed by UEFA, and to be fair, that's probably most likely going to be an incited feat from Florentino Perez or the presidents of Barcelona, those sorts of clubs. They would be completely all for it. BRBT. Football is dead now, the skill long gone. I think the game's overcoached. There's not enough encouragement for talent to do the talking. It's all give it all to the manager to do. It's henceforth everyone's quite raving mad about managers of football clubs. It used to be the manager was not sought after for his tactical nous or ability. It was the guy that commanded the most respect, and finding someone that everybody respected and had the reins of the football club, having an authoritative figure, because we've had all sorts of managers down the years that have had that, not so much a tactical ability. I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson was by no means a tactical genius. Well, there wasn't smart game plans that will outplay teams left, right, and centre every single week. There was an element of it being manager that everybody was like, they absolutely respected him. They'd do everything for him, everything he'd ask. They'd give their absolute all, give everything 100%. For them, right now, for players, it's like if you crossed Ferguson in the wrong way back then, you were absolutely pale, white in the face, shit scared of being called into that office. Now, you get called into the office like, oh, what does this guy want now? You go, oh, brilliant. Now I'll go talk to this lunatic again. Players don't respect managers anymore. They don't respect managers anymore. You hear it a lot where players have a lot to say. It's like, no, I like this guy. I like it. I like what this guy's got to offer. I like what he does. I like how he thinks. I like his approach. I appreciate those comments coming out from people that, after the fact, after all's been said and done. Instead, it's like we get live updates and people saying, well, actually, this manager's, I'm really impressed by the way he does this. I'm really impressed by the way he does that. It's like, say what you want to say between teammates and say, actually, this guy is intense. He's very intense. But respecting that manager. And I think if you talking about him in a positive sense, is one thing. By all means, speak about your manager in a positive light at a press conference. If he sat right next to you and say, he does a very good job. I mean, to just press releases, for me, I wouldn't do that, because I'd want to speak positively about a manager, in front of him, like to the media. Let people know about how this manager's impacting the squads, morality, mentality, physicality. Speak about those things in the press conference. But because we've seen reports about managers, all in many, many cases, where people leak the stories by saying, the manager's really, really good, really fantastic approach. And then further down the line, you'll get people that come out and say, no one understands what the hell the manager's doing. And it's just like, well, those are very contradictive reports coming from very familiar faces, or from familiar throats, familiar voice boxes. So opinions like the ones you hear today were not opinions that you would ever hear you know, leaked in mainstream anywhere 20 years ago, man. Champions League is changing too. It's a league, not groups next year. It's an interesting concept. The problem is that it plays more games. It plays more games, and the fixture list is it will probably face even more congestion, and that's not good. That isn't good. That's a bad thing. More games means more trouble, and I think squad fitness is going to be struggling, really, really struggling with more games. And the thing is, even if it's an extra 3 games or 3 or 4 games for what would have been the group stage, what's happening is that if the competitions start at the same time, we've recently just played the last, like not this week just gone, but last week, the last group stage game. We still may be playing Champions League football midweek games going through December into towards January, because European knockouts start in February. So you might actually be getting Champions League football in January in midweek games. That seems rough when you've got people who go far in the Carabao Cup and people starting the FA Cup. So there'd still be 4 competitions going on at the exact same time. The same time. That is difficult. It's a congested fixture, and that's like minus the international breaks as well, by the way. Even without the even without the international breaks, it's a really congested fixture list. The Premier League was opposed, and it is loved now. It can't last forever. It's been 30 years. Something will change rather than European football change than domestic. Personally, what I think with European football, I think it does need to be looked into as probably the competition that needs changing the most in terms of its layout. I think the Premier League, domestic leagues, are just what they are. And to be honest, I think domestic leagues, there's not really anything you can say, like change per se. I think the Carabao Cup for me, scrap the competition. Scrap it, because it's a little bit of an awkwardness in the way in which it's knockout competition that occurs or finishes in February. It's a bit of an awkwardness, right? I think if you open the fixture list to be able to fit more Champions League games in where the Carabao Cup fixture games would have been, with lower division teams, they already have their own knockout competition, their own Carabao Cup in the form of the I think it used to be called the J Paint Trophy or the Papa John's Trophy. I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. I don't know if it's still called that now. But it's literally lower division teams, like the top flight division, doesn't compete in that. We've got the FA Cup. We've got the FA Cup, but we compete in European competitions. So it's a tier above in alternative competitions. I think doing that actually opens the door for a lot more interesting conversations. So I would, for me, that's perhaps the domestic change I would make. But this is the funny thing as well. The Carabao Cup doesn't draw much competition earnings. So it's kind of like, is there really much incentive for clubs to want to keep the Carabao Cup around? For me, not really. So, yeah, rough fuzzy. Feels a bit rough on the cheeks at the moment, to be fair. If English clubs are banned from ESL, should we see English clubs being moved abroad permanently? Could Manchester United be moved? The Glazers would do it. I have no doubt. Well, Big T, I'll tell you what. I'll be interested. If English clubs get excluded, or if we get signed to not being allowed to go into the ESL, how quick do you reckon the Glazers would suddenly turn around and leave Manchester United? Because I reckon they would be like, oh, well, screw this. They might stick the rest of the club up for sale instantly. You'll probably get reports come out the next day. Glazers stick the rest of their all of their shares up for sale. Official. Sir Jim Ratcliffe would be sat on the side there just like, oh, so you're leaving now. Can I have the rest of the club? You might be sat there just like, well, can I just have the rest of the club? And the Glazers would be like, I don't care who gets our shares. We'll sell it to whoever. We stick an asking price on it, and we'll just take to the first and highest bidder. So, I mean, that's the thing. That it's probably the case that because of the ESL, is probably perhaps why the Glazers have stuck around the way that they have, if they have knowledge of this being in the pipelines. They're probably holding out hope for this competition, which is another reason why seeing the statements of clubs going against the ESL, or people saying we are committed to UEFA competitions, it's like, I mean, you haven't said that you're not going into it, but knowing these owners, whoever writes the PR for Manchester United might get an angry, if they word it wrong, might get an angry call from the Glazers and saying, listen, you don't say that we are not going into it, or that we are going into it. Don't tell people anything. Perhaps. In terms of moving the club abroad, that would be very difficult. Because if Manchester United were to be moved, it wouldn't be Manchester United anymore. It wouldn't. They probably wouldn't allow it. Probably the competitions that Manchester United would be moved into, those competitions will probably say, well, no, you can't be called Manchester United. You can come over, but you're not going to be called that. You've got to rename yourselves. And that would never go down. Never, ever, ever go down. Big up, Wolf. Didn't forget I got sidetracked. Away the lads. Away, Geordie. How we doing? Big up, Geordie. Big ups, man. ESL would be streamed for free on its own platform. Throw in no VAR and I'll be tempted to watch. Throw in some other interesting rules in there and I might just watch it for the sake of free entertainment, and it just be that. Free entertainment? Maybe. Big up, Wolf. Big up, lad. Would City and Newcastle owners sell up to go buy a Super League club? That's an interesting question, because it would be a competition that gives better winnings, like better earnings. But to be honest, with the guys like Manchester City and Newcastle, they already know that the Premier League is as prosperous as it is. They want to have a big player in representing their parts of the world, right? A big player, like a face club, right? So would they give up those projects of creating the faces of football in their regions, their national regions, by going to buy other alternative clubs in the Super League? I mean, the thing is that you'd have to go and get those clubs in the Super League to essentially sell their clubs, or want to sell the clubs. That won't happen quickly. That won't happen fast. It won't happen instantly. It's going to be a while before anybody is even tempted, remotely tempted to sell, because it's a big opportunity to get more money for all of the owners that do it. Big opportunity. So you'd have to essentially look into it as, if they get more money and someone sticks a big bid on the table, will they want to ride that wave a bit longer, or milk milk that cow a little bit longer before they decide to get the massive payout? Because that's the thing, is the Glazers are hoping that with a Super League, it boosts Manchester United's valuation that way before they'd sell. And that could probably be the most likely reason as to why the Glazers hold on to the club, because they can't grow the valuation of this club. It's reached its maximum as it is. But if it's in a Super League, in an exclusivity state, that adds value regardless. So the Glazers get to ask for the eights, tens, 12 billion pounds asking prices when it's in an exclusive competition, becomes an invited team in those competitions. It adds value regardless of the state of its deterioration and its structure for stadium facilities or training ground or football team. It adds value. So could Manchester United move to the USA? If they built a stadium over there, they would fill it. I think they would fill it, but again, it becomes a case that Manchester United is called Manchester United as it's a club from Manchester in England. It would probably have to be renamed. As to where they'd move it to, they might rename it to the local settlements, the settlement name, and then still have United on the back of it. They'll tag along its history and say the club used to be a part of Manchester, England, but then they moved over to Philadelphia. They moved over to Tampa Bay. And it's like, it doesn't have the right ring to it. And I think even then, American fans of Manchester United would not want that. They wouldn't want that. They love it when United come to play in the States. They absolutely love it. And, fair plays to them. But I don't think they would enjoy that. I don't think that they would actually be up for that, because of what they've started to support to begin with, and what Manchester United probably is meant to them. There is a Manchester in the USA. Oh yeah, there literally every single settlement in England there is in the United States. Literally, there is every settlement. I'm sure of it. There's got to be. There's probably like, I don't know, like maybe a place called Shitterton. Maybe there isn't that place. I mean, Christ Almighty. I mean, how many is my local place? A town name. Don't know why it's asking me for directions. I don't want to ask for directions. I don't think it is. No. Yeah. So my most local place or town hasn't got a name in US, but for the most part there is. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Another thing as well, quickly, just to sort of wrap the show up on here, is that supposedly Sir Jim's 25% stake in the club will not be announced tonight or tomorrow. So again, no ideas as to when it's going to happen. Some people say whether it is even if it's going to happen. To be honest, I've got that thought in the back of my mind, but probably close around the corner. But it's just going on and on and on and on and on. And I think it's probably going to get to like January 1st, and then they'll probably announce it and say, yeah, now it's going to happen. Which, by the way, just as an insight, Manchester United announcing the takeover on the 1st of January, if they do decide to do that, is probably one of the easiest ways to completely give up the idea, or to expose the idea that the Glazers are deliberately screwing with Manchester United. Deliberately doing it to piss off the fans. It must be. It must be, because the sooner they get in, the better. If there's no deal until January 1st, there is no January transfer window for Ineos. There isn't. So they're saving the announcement for Christmas Day as a gift to the fans. They might be thinking that they're doing a service that way. They might be wrapping it up as it's like, here we are, guys, Merry Christmas. You got a takeover, 25%, yay. Yeah, it took you over a year to not leave the club and stick around for a competition that you might possibly not get into or be a part of. You want to have in, but will you? Will you? That's another question. We'll have to see. But anyways, guys, that wraps up the show for tonight. Of course, tomorrow afternoon, 12:30 kickoff time is West Ham versus Manchester United. I won't be around to doing any watch-alongs for anything like that at all. Match reactions, I'll be busy at work, unfortunately. But match reactions will be earlier in the afternoon if I can do so, and then we can possibly do a nice festive show, a little festive show, a little Christmassy stuff. Maybe I do a bit of decorating. I'll see if I can do a bit of decorating for my overlay or something, or add an overlay with some Christmassy stuff on it, and all of that good heebie-jeebies. But that wraps up the show for tonight. Guys, leave your thoughts and your feelings about the topics discussed in tonight's show. Christmas karaoke. If I want noise complaints and to end up in a padded cell, maybe I do. But until I fancy being locked up in a mental institute, I think we best avoid Christmas karaoke, because otherwise there's a lot of bleeding ears in this part of England. And I don't fancy doing that to people. People around here already suffer enough. But maybe other streams might be doing it. We'll have to see. But anyways, big ups to everybody that has tuned in, to the regulars in chat, to Big T, Wolfgang, Geordie, Old School Gunner, and Adam Taylor. Fantastic to see you guys. Hope everything's all good with you. And I hope the Christmas planning goes well, because I know there's the days running up to Christmas tend to be probably the most stressful times of the year, because you're getting ready for the one big day to just then let your hair down straight afterwards. But it's going to be good fun, people. It's going to be good fun. But thank you very much for tuning into tonight's stream. Of course, the match reaction will come tomorrow afternoon, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I'm probably going to be dead on my feet after that as well, by the way, because we hit record sales for the year today, and tomorrow is planned to be even busier, so we're going full throttle tomorrow. So I might be dead on my feet for that stream, but let's see to trying to do some festive stuff and all of that good stuff. But anyways, that's it from me for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you are smashing the likes if you're watching live or on playback, and subscribing if you have not done so already. We're back up to 130, so I'm back in the 30s, Let's keep it going. Let's try and claw another one back if you can. It's free to do, and it's a very generous, kind act to helping the channel grow. And safe to say I probably won't hit Jez's 250 subscriber target before Christmas, but we'll take all the little wins we can, and when they do come along. And that is very big thank yous to the community and the viewers in chat for helping us get to where we are. So big thank yous to you. And yeah, good night to everybody, and we'll see you again very, very soon tomorrow. So take care, goodbye, God bless, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.